So I hope all of you can see my screen. So I'm just talking about this Visualforce controller slide again. Standard controller. So we talked about 4 types of controllers: standard list, standard list, custom, and extension. Right. So standard controller, consists of same functionality and logic that is used for a standard Salesforce page. So we have seen that we have used standard controller and we have worked on that part. Standard list controller enables you to create Visualforce pages that can display or act on a set of records. So standard list controller basically can act on a set of records. That also we have seen. That's absolutely fine. Custom controller. Now the third type of controller. Right. So these two we have done. Now we are getting into the third type of controller. So what did we talk about the custom controller? For those who do not remember, let's quickly go through it. A custom controller is a class written in Apex that implements all of a page's logic without leveraging a standard controller. Pretty simple. So this is a class which is written in Apex and it leverages, it does not leverage any of the standard controller functionality. So no Salesforce standard controller thing. So here, where the logic comes from, it comes directly from the Apex class that you are writing. So you have the liberty to write your own logics, your own set of instructions, whatever you want to instruct to the page, you can do that. Okay. And if you use a custom controller, you can define new navigation elements or behavior. So if you're using a custom controller, then you have the choice of defining your own behaviors or navigations or everything, right? Then controller extension. So controller extension is also an extension of a standard or custom controller, but we will talk about controller extension a little later. We are going to talk about custom controller first. So what we understand here is to write create a custom controller. First of all, we need to have basic understanding of Apex, right? So we need to understand Apex first. So that is what we are going to do. We are going to get into Apex today. We'll talk about Apex. And then we will see how can we create a custom controller with Apex. Okay, so here we are on the Apex. So Apex is the second programming language that we will use in Salesforce. As we talked earlier also that there are two things. So one is Visualforce, one is Apex. So we will learn about Apex. What is Apex? Apex is a strongly typed object-oriented programming language. So this is an object-oriented programming language and Apex is a proper programming language. Like Visualforce was a markup language, more of a markup language. This is a proper programming language and it's an object-oriented programming language, right? That allows developers to execute flow and transaction control statements. Okay, so this is a programming language that allows the developers to execute the flow of the data or the transactions and control statements on the force.com platform. Oh, that's pretty fine. Okay, Apex enables developers to add business logic to most system events. So what does Apex do? It allows the developers to add business logics to the system events, like button clicks. Okay, so it allows you to add logic on the button clicks, or when a record is updated, or on a Visualforce page. So you have navigations from one page, which page should be redirected once someone clicks on a button, where it should land up, all those things, right? So that is the thing. That is about Apex. Okay, so again, let me keep it very simple. Let's make it very simple. So the way we have learned Visualforce page through a practical approach, and we have kept things very simple there and understandable. We are going to talk about Apex in the same kind of a logic. So let's not go into too much of the complexities of it. Let us understand it in a simple way. So this is a language where you can define your own logics. Straightforward logics can be defined here, and you can give instructions to your Salesforce, you can provide, give instructions to the Salesforce through your Apex. Okay. We did not have any option of giving instructions on Visualforce. Why do we need Apex? Because Visualforce was just for designing the interface. Okay. So let's say Visualforce is more like for the page designing part, for the markup part, it did not have any ability to give instructions. It was just capable of bringing the components on the front end, right? But Apex is a language where I can go and give the instructions, right? So for that reason, we would use Apex for defining the controllers, right? And we have seen what Apex is. It's a strongly typed object-oriented programming language. That's fine. And there is one small thing. Apex is case insensitive, which means Apex is not case sensitive. So that is a small thing that you just need to keep in mind. Okay. So whenever we talk about any programming language, the first thing that we need to understand is what all data types are allowed in that programming language, right? So we all understand variables, right? So when we are talking about variables, we need to define the data type of the variable also, right? In other programming language also we have done similar kind of thing like a string or integer or a boolean, right? So in Apex also we have data types. So first of all, I want you to have some understanding on the data types that are allowed on Apex. Fine. In Apex, all variables and expressions have a data type. So whatever variable you are defining, that has a data type in Apex. Almost all programming languages have that, but we are talking in context of Apex. So all variables and expressions have a data type. That is one of the following. Okay. So in Apex, what are the data types are allowed? These are the ones: primitives, S objects, collections. Under collections you have list, set, maps. Okay. So I'll talk about each one of them. What is primitive? Primitives are the basic data types which are available in some other programming languages also. So Apex primitive data types include things like boolean, so can only be assigned true, false or null. So boolean is something which can either hold a true, false or null. Either it has to be a true or false or a null. That's a data type. So whenever you want to do a true false kind of thing, that can be a boolean. Decimal, a number that includes a decimal point. We all know that. Double, a 64-bit number that includes a decimal point. ID, any valid Salesforce.com ID. So this ID is something which is particular to Salesforce. ID is a data type which holds Salesforce.com ID. You remember we have talked about Salesforce.com ID, which appears in the URL. During our Visualforce page, we were copying the ID and we were putting it on the other Visualforce page. So this ID data type refers to that ID. Okay, so this will only be used for that field. It cannot be used for anything else. Integer, it's again simple, a 32-bit number that does not include a decimal point. So integer does not include a decimal point. Long, 64-bit number that does not include a decimal point. String, any set of characters surrounded by single quotes. So string can be any set of characters. Then we have date, a value that indicates a particular day. Date time, a value that indicates a particular day and time. And we have time only, a value that indicates a particular time. So these are the primitives that we have in Salesforce, right? So these are the primitive data types that we can use. Okay. And these are pretty simple ones. Now the next one, the S objects. Apart from this, in addition to these data types, what else we can use in our Apex? In addition to these, we can use S objects. Okay. What is an S object? The term S object refers to any object that can be stored in the Force.com platform data type, Force.com platform database. Okay. Now, yep. So what is this thing? For S object refers to any object that can be stored in Force.com platform database, right? So it stands for Salesforce object. When I say S object, it stands for Salesforce object. Okay. So this refers to any object which can be stored in the Force.com database. So everything is an S object: account, opportunity, contact, or any of your custom objects. Fine. So everything is a S object. It's a Salesforce object, right? All the tables, all the objects that you have. Okay. So that is what S object refers to. Now an S object variable represents a row of data. So when we are talking about an S object variable, we are talking about a row of data from that object. Simply. So when I talk about an S object variable account, I'm talking about a row of data from account, one record from account. If I say S object variable opportunity, I'm talking about one row of opportunity. So that is the variable, right? And can only be declared in Apex. Okay, so an S object variable represents a row of data and can only be declared in Apex. For example, you say account A equals new account. Okay, so here the data type is account, which is an S object. You say A, which is the variable, equals new account, right? So this refers to a new account record. Got it? The same way, if it's a custom object, your custom object name is my custom object. _C is what we'll have to suffix at the end of a custom object. That is what we have talked earlier. Give a variable name equals to, and then you say new my custom object. So it's a pretty simple logic. If I want to define a variable for a record from an object, what do? I just straight away define it with the name of the object. So that is why we call it S object data type. Fine. So for each object that you have in Salesforce, for each standard and each custom object that you have in Salesforce, there is a data type, okay, which refers to a row of data from that object, and you just need to define that by the name of that object itself. You don't have to do anything else, right? So we'll talk a little more about this. Things will become a little more clear to you. So primitives we have understood. We have also understood S objects, and then we will talk about a list. Okay, so you see a list here. List of colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, right? So there's a list. So let's understand this list concept. A list is an ordered collection of primitives or S objects that are distinguished by the indices. Okay, so a list in Salesforce is again a data type which is an ordered collection of primitives. So it's a collection of primitives or S objects, but it is an ordered collection. Ordered collection means, see, do you see the order? This is index 0, index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So each value in a list has an index number, and that is what the list definition also has to say about it. That are distinguished by the indices, right? So the first value and the second value are not distinguished by the actual value. They are distinguished by this index number, right? Even if I had a red in the third position here, I have red at index 0, and if I have red again here, these two will not be considered as duplicate value because the identifier is the index number. So a list basically is distinguished by the indices and not by the actual value. Okay, and that is the reason why we call it an ordered collection. So this is an ordered collection where everything has an index number. The index position of the first element in a list is always 0. So the index number of the first value is 0. So it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 that way. Okay. So for an example, you see list of integer, my list, new list of integer. So this is the syntax, this is how a list of integers will need to be defined. Okay. Now if you want to add to this list, my list dot add 47. So already if you have a list of integer and if you say my list is the name of the list that you have given. If you say dot add 47, it will add a second element of value 47 to the end of the list. At the end of the list, it will add this 47, right? If you want to fetch the value from the list, you can use the syntax, say integer I equals to mylist dot get 0. So what it will do? It will define an integer I, and I will get the value from the first index. So index 0, whatever is a value assigned, let's say it's 45. So I will be equal to 45. That is, right? Retrieves the element at index 0. So get 0 will help you fetch the value from the index 0. Right? So this is the advantage actually of list. Why ordered collection? Because you can retrieve the value from a particular index number also. Right? And it also, yeah.
If I can only append the values in the list, or I can insert a value in certain index. Like for example, if I want to insert something in the second index 2, can I write like my list in the braces to add 47?
No,
like
just 1 minute. Yeah, please put yourself on mute. Thank you. Yeah. Just look into the screen. I think your question will be answered in the next one. Okay. So, yeah. The next thing is set. So set basically adds the integer 1 to the list at an index number, right? So in case you want to set some value at a particular index number, that can also be done. So this one is basically setting a value 1 at index 0. You could have set it at index 5 also, so if you want to go and change. So you can fetch the value from the list, you can set the value on the list, that can be done, fine. So that is about our list, fine. So what we have understood, basic thing what you need to understand about list is its collection. I think some other programming languages you might have heard of a concept. In case you have heard of it, you might have heard of array and all that stuff, right? Pretty similar to that, but we'll not get into the array and we'll not talk about that. We just need to understand this thing that this is a collection of variables. It can be primitive, it can be S object, and it's an ordered collection. So the only advantage or the biggest advantage of ordered collection is that everything has an index number, and the index number is the identifier. Got it? The actual value is not the identifier. Index number is the identifier, which means duplicate values can be allowed, right? So other way, if you think about it, duplicate values will be allowed on it. And if this itself, if the values are the identifier, then you cannot allow duplicate values, right? So every value that you enter into this list has a unique identifier, which is the index number. Okay, so that's about list. We will again get into the example, we will understand it a little better. The other thing that we have here is the set. Okay, yeah, there is one more thing, mylist.clear. So if you say mylist.clear, it will remove all elements from the list, that's fine. The next one is set. So set is something like this. You see the values, San Francisco, New York, prior is Tokyo. Now there is no index number attached to it. So what is a set? Set is an unordered collection of primitives or S objects. So unordered collection, here does not matter which one appears first, which one appears second, fine. That do not contain any duplicates, but the set cannot contain any duplicate, right? Because this is an unordered collection and the identifier is the value of the record itself. Like San Francisco, next time you try to enter San Francisco, a set will check that okay, the San Francisco already exists, so it will not allow the duplicate entry of it, right? In our last example, if I have red here in the index 0, I try to enter one more red, it will take it and it will put it in index 6, right? But here if you try to put in a set of variables, if you try to add a duplicate value, it will not take. It will just keep one San Francisco. You cannot have a second one, right? So that's about a set. So you have the same kind of syntax for that set of integer. Instead of list, you just have to use set. The concept is different. In set, you just say set.add and value. So you don't have to define the index number. In list, you have to define index number where you have to enter. If you don't define the index number, it by default gets entered into at the end. But in set, there is no concept of index number. And you can just go and check since system.assert, and you can just check if it contains 1 or not. So this is a method for checking that if it contains 1 or not. Assert that the set contains an element. Fine. Then you can also go and say s.remove 1, so this will remove the element from that set, right? Okay, so that is about a set. There is another thing which is called a map. Okay, so a map is collection of key value pairs where each unique key maps to a single value. Okay, so this map is collection of the key value pairs where each key maps to a single value. Think of the collection of, say, countries and capitals. In one string you want to, one set of strings you want to list down all the countries, and other set of strings you want to list down all the capitals, right? And then you want to map the countries with the capitals, or countries and the currencies. So you have a set of string which is called countries, and then you have a set of string which is called the currencies, and then you want to map both of them. So that is what mapping is. Okay. So this is how you define a map. So you say map integer string. You can map anything. You can map two S objects. You can map two primitives. You can map one primitive one with one S object. Okay. So in mapping, you see this kind of a syntax is used: map integer string m new map integer string. Right. So this is how this mapping is done. And then you put entries like this: map m dot put 1. So this is a mapping of integer and string, right? So this is how you have to define the mapping. 1 first entry, m dot put 2 second entry. So this integer and this string you are mapping. So you are mapping 1 to the first entry and 2 to the second entry. Okay, and then you can do a system dot assert here. M dot contains key 1. Okay, so this can assert whether the map contains a key with a value 1. Okay, and then you can also fetch a string from this map dot get 2. So what you can do from here is you can just get a value from here, map dot get. And after that, instead of 2, if you had mapped it with another string, you could have put that string and it would have helped you get the value of that, right? So if you say string value equals m dot get 2, what will it return? Value will be equals to second entry, right? Retrieves a value given a particular key. So in the mapping, the first thing that we are using, this is the key. Okay. Integer with string. So in mapping, the first side is key and the second side is the value. Okay, and you cannot have what do you call it? You cannot have duplicate keys. You can have duplicate values here, but you cannot have duplicate keys. Got it? Yeah. So after doing, you just do a system assert equals second entry is value. So you're just checking whether value is equal to second entry or not. So that kind of syntax can be used. Okay. Define another set of integer s which can return you set of complete set of keys, right? So if you want to get a complete set of all the keys from this map, you can just say m dot key set. It will return you the set of maps, set of keys, sorry. So that's fine. So these are the three different types of collections. No, whatever we have discussed so far is not a class. Okay, we have not come to the class and all those things. Whatever we have talked so far, these are all the data types, and we are just learning how to define variables, right? Now we have learned how to define simple variables or the primitives, what we call string, integer, decimal, boolean. Then we have learned how to define variables for S objects from the Salesforce objects, and we have also learned how to define collections. So single variables as well as collections. So for collection, we have seen three things: list, set, and map. Right? All right. So now let's talk about a class. Once we have learned how to define the variable, now the next thing that we will understand is a class. So what is a class? A class is a template or blueprint from which objects are created. Okay. Anyone who does not know anything about class, please type it in the chat window. Anyone who does not know what a class is, who never had a chance to learn the class or work on it. For people, in case I do not have any such person, then I'll just straight away get into creating the class. But if we do have anyone in the session who does not know anything about class, then I'll just give you a little simpler overview of it. So I am assuming that everyone is aware of what is a class. Okay, that's good. So in that case, we don't have to spend much time on this. We'll straight away get into things. Okay, so as I said, a class is a template or blueprint from which objects are created. So an object is an instance of a class. That is also fine. A class can contain variables and methods. So we have talked about variables, and we will also define methods in a class, right? So you define a class, and within the class you can define your methods. Those methods can be then called at different places, right? To execute your class, or sorry, to execute the methods, or to execute the code block that you have defined in that method, right? So now let us understand the way we will use this Apex for our Visual Force page. So as I said that for custom controller we need to write the logics into our in Apex, right? For custom controller we need to write the logic in Apex, right? So for that, what we'll do, let us understand it. We will need to create a class using Apex. So first of all, we'll learn how to create a class. We'll create a class in Apex, and the class that we define in the Apex, we need to call that class in our Visual Force page as a controller. So instead of using a standard controller, you will call your user defined class as a controller on the Visual Force page. So that is what we are going to do, right? So let us go and create a controller, or a class rather. So let's come to the Salesforce. Where do you create a class? For creating a class, you can go to setup, go to develop, and then go to your Apex classes. Alright, so go to setup, develop, Apex classes, click on new. this is where you will define your Apex class. Okay, so a class usually has a name of the class. For a class you need to define the name of the class, you need to define the variables and methods. Just for your quick understanding, so a class usually ideally should have a name, it should have some variables defined, it should have methods, and a class can have its inner classes also, so that's there, but these are the primary things which a class ideally should have, right? Name is required, name has to be there. Okay, so let us start writing a class here. So I say public class C1, whatever. All right. So this is our class, right? I want to define a variable inside it, call it a primitive hello, and the value to this I assign is how are you. Okay, so I wanted to define a simple primitive here as a variable. Okay, now I will also define a get method to return the value of this string. Okay, so in a method you need to define the method type, the return type, method type. So this is a get method, name of the method you just have to give. So name of the method I can give anything. So I've defined a get method for this variable, okay, which returns the value of hello. That's it, right? Now we have what all components we have. Let us understand it, very quick. It's very simple, right? You have defined the class, you have defined a variable, and you have defined a method which returns the value of the string or the variable that we defined, right? What we have to do, we have to go to our Visualforce page. We'll have to call this class as a controller on the Visualforce page, and we'll have to call this method to get the value of this, because this method returns hello, right? So we will not, I cannot call this variable directly on that. I can call this method, get method on the Visualforce page, right? So that is the thing. So what you have to do, you just have to go and create a Visualforce page now. Before that, make sure you have saved it. The moment you try to save it, it will throw any syntax error in case there is. Put it here and type Apex and then say v12. Alright, so this is my Visualforce page. On Visualforce page you call a controller. Where do you define the controller? So instead of using a standard controller, this time we'll just call a controller. So you just have to define an attribute called controller, and what will be the name of the controller? The name of the class. So what was the name of the class that I defined? I defined it as C1. So C1 will be the controller here. Whatever is here, it's fine, no problem. So when you define a class and you want to call the methods from the class in your Visual Force page, you just have to say that controller equals to the class name. That's it. Alright, so this is a custom controller. Now in this custom controller, you can just use the methods that you have defined in the class. Now if you just go and say account.name and all that stuff, it will not understand. Why it will not understand? Because we have not connected it to any standard controller. I can just use the methods from my controller class, right? So the method that I've defined here is return hello. Okay. Yeah, Satish has a question, says this get return hello is the method name. Santosh has, okay, Santosh says yes. Yeah, so that's correct, Santosh and Satish. That's the name of the method, right? But to call that method on the Visual Force page, you don't have to give that get part of it, right? So when you are defining a get method, ideally this complete thing is the name of this method. Fine, but while you're calling, and this get has to be there, fine, you have to have this get prefix on a method which you want to return on the Visual Force page. So this get has to be there. Now to call this method on the Visual Force page, you don't have to put the get part there. Yeah, it's a getter method, absolutely correct. Sorry. So we can just call the method here. We don't have to say get here. And this method will return whatever we have instructed it to return. That's it. So that is how simple it is to connect a Visual Force page with a class or with a controller, with a user defined controller, right? So now let me know if anyone has any question here, if you could not understand anything here. We'll get into other things, but before that, do we understand how we are connecting things? Created a class, defined a method there, getter method came to the Visual Force page, called the class as a controller, and then we are calling the method, right? And that whatever we have defined in that method there, or whatever we have defined for the variable, that can be written on this page, right? All right. So let us get into a few more examples so that you understand things a little better. So mainly what you will use is string and integers and all those things you will keep on using. That's something that you anyhow will have to use. But most of the times you will be focused on using the S object because this is related to the data, right? Now how do I display the data on this page? How do I display data on the page? So for displaying the data on the page, what I have to do? I have to use S objects, right? Salesforce objects. So let's work with S objects now. Let's say I want to display account record. I say account A equals new account and you have the option of defining the values because there's a new account. New account means it does not exist in the database, so I have the option of defining things like the name, industry, fine. So I've defined a new account here and I've defined values for that account, name and industry, right? Then you define a method for it. What will be the return type? Account. Fine, so what I've done here, I've defined an S object, and in that S object, it's a new account, and I've defined two values. I've given values to two of the fields of account also, right? Now on your Visual Force page, on the Visual Force page, now I'll call this class as a controller. C2, and you also have the option of now you can say account dot name. So this account actually does not refer to the actual account object, it refers to the S object that you have defined there. See, when you say account dot name, it shows you the name of the account that you defined there, right? And then you can put a line break and say account dot industry see. Now if you say account dot type, it will throw an error. Just give me 1 minute, I'll just be back. Hello, yep, I'm back. Yeah, so account dot type it does not have. So we have not defined any type. We have not given value to the type. So it's blank. So that is how this thing works, right? So now it is referring to the values that we have defined in our class. Okay, now let's go and
here you have defined an instance of an account with the name Dell India Industrial Technology, right? But how do I say, suppose I go to the accounts and create a new account. I insert an account and give all the details like contacts, opportunities in the account. And if I want to get an instance of that particular account, would this work if I just give the name of the existing account name, and would I have all the details of that account, including all the related objects, and I can use that to display?
Yeah, just put yourself on mute. Yep. Yeah, we'll talk about that part. I mean, I'll also show you how to fetch the values from the existing accounts. We are gonna talk about that. And I also see one more question here, which is instead of standard account class, we use C2 use as our class and get the object instance of account created in custom class, right? Okay, this question is a little confusing, but I'm hoping that you're saying that instead of standard class, we are using the custom class, right? That is what you're asking? Yes, that's correct. Okay. Now the problem with this custom controller is the standard controller by default knew a lot of things. Custom controller does not know anything. Fine. So for custom controller, you just have to go and define everything. Whatever you define, that is only what is going to come. Okay. So that is the thing. But we want that kind of a setting. That is the reason why we have got into the custom controller. We want our user defined instructions to be working on the Visual Force page. Okay. Now coming to the question that Santosh was asking, that I think Santosh, your question was more on how do we fetch the data from the existing records, right? Yeah. So that is again something that we will be able to do here, and in fact that is what we will see now. So this Dell India is something that we defined as a new record there in the class itself. Now if I want to get define another S object, call it account. So before I get into that part, so we have understood so far, it's fine, whatever we have understood. Now if you want to get a record, or if you want to fetch a data, fetch the data from the database, then you will have to use your queries, SQL queries, SQL similar to SQL. These are not SQL. In Salesforce we call them SOQL. So there is another thing that you have to understand here is SOQL. So SOQL is nothing, it's similar to SQL, the same kind of syntax and everything. So in case I want to define an S object and I want to retrieve or fetch the value of that S object from the existing database table, then what do? Then I use a select query or a SQL query for that, right? So for an example, edge communications. You can just go and say account A1 equals, define your select query here, select name, industry, phone, fax from account where name equals this. Fine. And then you have to define a get method for this. Right. So define one more method for returning the value of A1. What is A1? A1 is the record where I have selected name, industry, phone, fax from account table, from the account table where name equals to this. So this is a simple SQL query. Now if I go here and if I say edge.name, So name, industry, phone, fax. Field name is not correct. Okay. Fine. So you are getting the data from the existing record. You can do, retrieve the data the way you want. I've just done a simple stuff. Now, if I want to, get value of another field, so these 4 fields I put in the query. So I queried these 4 fields of data. In case you want to get the value of one more field, and I want to say h dot type. Here you have the error. So without querying, you are trying to display the value of this field. Field is there, that's fine, but it was not queried. So any field that you want to display on the page, you have to include the field in the query. Now it will understand. Now it understands, okay, what is the type. So you have to query every field that you want to bring on the Visualforce page, because it just can return what you have queried. That's it. In the return method, in that get method, it returns only what you have queried. So anything that you have not queried will throw you an error. All right. So it's not that, okay, fine, you have defined an account as object and then you can start calling all the fields from account. No. Fine. So only the fields which you have queried in the SQL query that you have written. All right. So this is another simple example that I just wanted to do. Okay. New account, and this is existing account. Right. So this is about one new record and one existing record that we have displayed on our Visualforce page. Let's go ahead and create 1 or 2 more examples. Understand that a little better. Okay. The standard controller class and method names are same. Satish, sorry, I did not get this question. What is this? Is the in standard controller? So in a standard controller, class and method names are same.
So we use account as the class standard controller, but we also get the field value like account.name. So that second account is method name. Like we have a Gettting is our method here, and C2 is our class, right? So
yeah, kind of. Yeah, you can say that.
Okay, thank you.
Mute please. Yes, thank you. Alright. So now let's create another example. So I would say public class C3 This time we will display a list. Okay, list of S objects. So list of S object is pretty simple. The syntax is this: give it any name and you say select name, industry, type, phone, fax from account. Okay, so just say select name, type, industry, phone, fax from account. So now this is going to be a list of all the account records because I have not put any condition. I have not put any where clause here, right? And I can just say, so when we are defining a list, to return a list, on the method also return type should be list. You cannot return single account if you want to return in a list of accounts, right? So return type also should be list. Small thing, in case I'm defining a get method for a variable, I usually prefer taking it as the same name of the variable. I've showed you in previous examples, we have seen that we can take it a different name and it does not have to be the same. The name of the variable and name of the method does not have to be same. Okay, we can take different names. But for our convenience, sometimes we take the same name. So I have a practice of using the same name as the variable, right? You guys also, I would suggest use the same name as variable, because otherwise you might need to, end up having too many names, right? Different name for variable and other name for the method and all that stuff. So that is the thing. I usually use the same name here. So don't get confused here. It's the method and this is the variable. These are two different things. So it helps me call the things on Visual Force pages easily. So ACTS is the list of the accounts, of list of all accounts, right? Now let's go to the Visual Force page, create one more page here. My controller is going to be C3 this time. Okay, because I have a list, to display the list, what we need a table. So I cannot display a list just by putting the method name. So to display the list, I need a table. We have learned already how to display a list of records using the standard list controller and the standard controller. So let me first of all create a table for it. Call it, give a title, list of all accounts, and then we will need a page block table here. Okay, so in page block table there are two required attributes. One is a value, one is a variable. So value will be your this list of accounts that we want to return within this table. Variable can be anything. Variable is what we will define for Visual Force. This is a part of markup, so you can put anything. So this variable does not need to be defined on the class. Define it here itself, and then you start defining the columns. A dot name type industry on facts. See this, a complete list of all the accounts, right? All right. Now, if you go and change your controller a little, you say where industry equals energy. Save the logic here, and if you go and refresh the page here, now it shows you only the records where the industry is energy, right? So using this custom controller, you have that option of defining your custom logics, that which records you want to display and which ones you do not want to display, and all those things, right? Got this thing? So we are able to put our logic in this way, and we are able to work on that part. All right. So okay, no, SOQL cannot be used in standard controller. SOQL can only be used with Apex, and Apex comes only in custom controller. All right, so this part is done. This is fine. All right, now let's do one more class. So we have seen, how do we display the list of records. You can query it or you cannot query, whatever conditions you want to put, depends on you. Take that and then work on it. Okay. Now let me create a page with two different sections. All right. So let me go and create an Apex class. Call it public class C4. Okay. Now I want to have a Visualforce page where I want to have two different sections for channel accounts and direct accounts. Okay. So first of all, you have to define two different variables. List account select name, type, industry, amount, tax from account where type equals channel, customer channel. Okay, so this is one of the account types, customer channel. I want to create a list which displays all the records where the type is customer channel. Now I would define one more variable called direct. That's it. And then I'll define two get methods for channel and direct. All right, now there's another this thing which is called if you have written any other programming language, you must be aware of comments and all, right? So in the code, sometimes you want to write some comments. So for writing comment, you should start the comment line with this. If you are writing it with this, the comment will not be considered as a part of code, and there will not be any error execution, or that will not be executed, or that will not be compiled. So that is the thing, basically. So this list will hold all the customer segment counts. It's also again a very good habit to put small, simple, understandable comments in case someone else is looking into your code. This code is a smaller one. Some codes can be a little longer, and there can be a few variables. If you define things, things might be a little easier for the other person to understand, and for you as well if you are looking into the code after some time. Method to return channel accounts. So these are just comments, so that's fine. Now both the list I will call on this page. So one thing that I have to do, I have to create two different pages, two different tables, right? So let's do it here, like controller equals C4 and define fx page block. So first one is for channel account, so I just go and say channel, and then the variable that we will put is gonna be C, and then I say fix column value C dot name type in this 3 font text. Okay, so these are all customer channel accounts. You can simply copy this entire stuff and paste it after this block, after this table as it is. The only thing that you have to change is the value. So instead of channel, it should be direct here. Fine. So this is how we are actually bringing in the list and everything. Now the same thing if you want to bring into two different tabs. Let me do use the same controller, but instead of displaying these as a list, I want to display them into two different tabs. Then just go to one more Visual Force page. Click on this. Okay, let me copy the entire code from there. Alright, for a tab instead of this page block table you should have used tabs, right? So what I'll do is I'll just go and delete this part of it. To the page block table we will need tab panel, Apex tab panel, Apex tab label channel counts, and label width can be 300 pixels, and inside the tab you just need to put whatever is there. Create one more tab. Alright, so I've created two tabs inside this tab panel. Now I just go and copy stuff from one table inside the first one, and the stuff from the second table inside the second one. This part is not required, so you can simply go and comment it. Same way. Okay. Okay, I have put it here. Should go inside the tab panel, tab. Right, so you can have your different list under different tabs. The same example that we did for the related list, now we are doing it as per our lists that we have here. And we can have switch type equals Ajax. Should work. Yes. So tab panel, then tab, and then this one. Yes, so this is it. This all space I will remove. So if there is anything in your code which you feel that it's not required now and you might need it at a later point of time, again comment it out. Okay. And you have the option of deleting also, but if you feel that you might need it at a later point of time, just make it as a comment. All right. So in the tabs, so I'll just give you a small assignment. You just have to create tabs for each industry.
When you say Jeet,
Mm-hmm.
when you say in each industry is a static list or a dynamic list?
It is a static list. As of now, prepare it as a static list. Gradually, you will learn how to do a dynamic list also. Fine. So for industry, whatever industries we have in the pick list, let's say there are 7 or 8 industries which are listed. So you need to create a tab for each one of them. Just for practice, I mean, do it for in that way, right? Now, other way of doing similar kind of thing. Now, what we have done, we have displayed 2 different lists. Okay. Now, if you don't want to define 2 different variables here, instead of defining 2 variables, you just want to define 1 variable. Okay. Now you just want to have one placeholder or one table of data here on your Visual Force page, and on that table or on that particular page, you just want to have 2 button kind of things, and on click of the button, the data in that table should get updated. So I don't want to have 2 different tables. Now what I am doing, I am using 2 different tables everywhere, right? Instead, what I want is I want the data in the table to get updated once the button is clicked. Okay, so that is going to be an action that we have to define. Okay, so we'll learn how to define an action. So for that, I'll go and create a class. Yeah.
You have defined a switch type, right?
Right. I was just reading that. Please. Yeah. Please put this on mute. Yeah, I was just reading that. So there is one more option called client for the switch type, right? I do not exactly know, what might be, what it does on that, because that is something which we do not commonly use. I can check that and let you know. Right? I was just thinking on that part only. I just read your question. So I can just let you know that. Okay. So we will define one more class here, and we will define action there. So public class C5. Okay. So instead of defining 2 variables, I'll just define 1 variable here, and I'll call it list of accounts. Call it accounts, and leave it as it is. So don't assign any value to it. Let's not assign any value to this variable. Let it be blank. And then I define a get method for it. Call it all right. So now what I want is I want to have two buttons on my page, and on click of the button the value inside this should get updated, right? That is what I want to do. I want to use the same variable, but there's a value inside this variable should get updated on click of the button. So that's fine. What we will do, we'll need to define two action methods here. So page reference is an action method, right? So we will define page reference method. Okay. So this page reference method has the capability of performing some action and referring you to another page also. That is the reason why it's called page reference. Right. So it can take you to some other page also. So I just say page reference and give the name of the button channel. So this page reference button should always return a page. After performing the action, it should return some page. Okay. And if you do not want to go to some other page, it should return any page, and you have to define where you want to go after the performance of the action. So do you want to go to some other page? So you have the option of defining some other page name where you want to land up after the action. But because I do not want to go to some other page, I want to stay on the same page, I will say return null. So return null means perform the action and then return back to the same page. And here you go and define select name type industry where type equals customer direct. So I have defined two page reference methods here. One is a channel, one is a direct. And this should be channel. You have to make sure you are using the right spelling here. Right. So both these methods are doing what? They would assign some value to this and then they will return back to the same page. That is what these methods are doing. Right. So it assigns some value. Initially I have not assigned any value to my variable. It will assign the value to my variable and then it will return to the same page. It's not moving out of that page. So where will I call these methods? I will call these methods into the command button action. Let me create a page here, VF18. Now I don't need two tables, I just need one table because I just have one return method. But value in that method will value in the variable will keep on updating automatically.
Jeet, sorry, I might have mistake. The page reference method a custom name or an existing method name? I mean,
page reference, yeah, that is a name. That's a keyword. Yeah.
Keyword? Or?
Yeah, that's a
and
keyword.
Can you repeat why?
Yeah, so this page reference method, this you have to use here anytime you want to do a reference on the page, right? So a refresh kind of thing, or reload of the page, that sort of thing, or you want to move away from the page, right? So when your page loads first time, this is the value which is assigned to the page, right? After that, if you want to change the values on the variables, then what you have to do, you have to do a refresh on the page or something like that, right? So for that, this page reference method we are using here. So when our page loads, ACTS will be, initially when my page loads, ACTS will be blank, or any value, it can have any value. But on click of the button, I want to refresh the value for that. So that is the reason why I'll do a page reference, right? But after doing that page reference method is also used for redirecting you to some other page. But in this case, we do not want to go to some other page. We just want to stay on the same page. So that is the reason why at the end we say return null. You always have to return something at the end of a page reference, because this is not a void method. So return null we say, so that it comes back to the same page. It does not move away. It just updates the variables and comes back to the same page. Correct? Huh?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
So that is what we have here. I've defined my controller. Okay, what is the name of this? Okay. Before anything, we will go and create a table. Okay, what is the name of this table? Accounts, call it accounts by type, and then put this block table here. So this time I just need one table, and the value will be
I think that it should be var equal.
sorry, yes, correct. Name type industry phone fax. Okay, so saved it. It does not show anything because my initial value to this is blank. It's null, so it does not have any value. It will get value only if I click on the button. So first of all, let me create buttons also. Page block buttons. Page block buttons is for getting the buttons on both the sides, right? So fix command button, value can be channel accounts, and action should be the method name that you have defined there, right? So the method name that you have defined there, call that as a command button action. Value is the text that you want to display on top of it. That can be anything. That's it. Okay, so whenever you are using a button, it has to be within Apex form. Channel accounts, direct accounts, see now, The value in that variable accounts is getting updated every time I click on the button, and that is what it displays on the page. Channel accounts, direct accounts. Okay, what else we have to do in case I don't want the complete page to be refreshed? On the command button, okay, for this page block table you have to give an ID to this table, and on command button just go and say re-render table, so that it does not re-render the entire page and does not make things slow. But if I just do a re-render, it does not do the complete page. Sorry?
Is the ID table or tail?
Yes. No, it's fine. Yep. Okay. Yep.
So I just like to know, when you click on the button, channel accounts, what is the sequence it goes? It goes to the first line of the code, public class. So to debug.
Yes, it actually does.
Yes.
So when you click on this button, see, when you click on this button, what happens? Let's say channel account. Channel account has that. Can you please put your microphone in mute? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, okay. So when you click on this button is linked with my method called channels. Okay. So it goes into this channel, it runs this, it assigns this value to this variable called ACTS, right? So if there are any get methods on that, those will also be updated. It's not that, okay, fine, it just does here and does not update the get method values on the page. So that is, so ideally this method is outside this page reference, still this will get updated, right? So the get methods finally again after your page reference, get methods also get updated, right? The variables get updated. So that is how it works. And that is the reason why, though at the start of the page I say ACTS, but when I click on the button, it takes this value and then it goes and assigns it to our variable. And that is what we can see here.
Can you show the Visual Force code once again?
Yes, I can. Sorry, where is the Visual Force page? Yeah, this is.